The Book of the Secrets, a new commentary. Discourse number 20, given in Bombay, India.
First question. You say that religion is total freedom or moksha, and you also stress the importance of surrender in religion. But are not freedom and surrender contradictory in terms? They appear contradictory, but they are not. And they appear because of the language. Existentially, they are not. Start to understand two things. First, you cannot be free, remaining as you are. Because as you are is your bondage. Your ego is the bondage. You can be free only when this ego point disappears. This ego point is the bondage. When there is no ego, you become one with existence. And only that oneness can be freedom. While you exist separate, this separation is false. Really, you are not separate. You cannot be. You are part of existence. And not a mechanical part, but an organic part. You cannot exist for a single moment separated from existence. You breathe it every moment. It breathes you every moment. You live in a cosmic whole. Your ego gives you a false feeling of separate existence. Because of that false feeling, you start fighting existence. When you fight, you will be in bondage. When you fight, you are bound to be defeated, because the part cannot win the whole. And because of this fight with the whole, you feel in bondage everywhere, limited. Wherever you move, a wall comes. That wall is nowhere in existence. It moves with your ego. It is part of your separate feeling. Then you struggle against existence. In that struggle, you will be defeated constantly. In that defeat, you feel bondage, limitation. By surrender is mean that you surrender the ego. You surrender the separating wall. You become one. That is reality. So whatsoever you are surrendering is just a dream, a concept, a false notion. You are not surrendering reality. You are just surrendering a false attitude. The moment you surrender this false attitude, you become one with existence. Then there is no conflict. And if there is no conflict, you have no limitation. Nowhere there comes a bondage, a boundary. You are not separate. You cannot be defeated because there is no one to be defeated. You cannot die because there is no one to die. You cannot be in misery because there is no one to be in misery. The moment you surrender the ego, the whole nonsense is surrendered. Misery, bondage, dukkha, hell, everything is surrendered. You become one with existence. This oneness is freedom. Separation is bondage. Oneness is freedom. Not that you become free. Remember this. You are no more. So it is not that you become free. You are no more. Really, when you are not, freedom is. Now this is a problem, how to express it. When you are not, freedom is. Buddha is reported to have said that you are not going to be in bliss. When you are not, the bliss is. You are not going to be liberated. You are going to be liberated from yourself. So freedom is not freedom of the ego. Freedom is freedom from the ego. And if you can understand this, that freedom is freedom from the ego, then surrender and freedom become one. Then they mean one. But if you take ego as the standpoint to think about, then the ego will say, why surrender? Because if you surrender, then you cannot be free. Then you become a slave. When you surrender, you become a slave. But really, you are not surrendering to someone. This is the second point to be understood. You are not surrendering to someone. You are simply surrendering. There is no one who will take your surrender. If there is someone and you surrender to him, then it is a sort of slavery. Really, there is not even a God to whom you are surrendering. And when we talk about a God, that is just to find you something to help surrender. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, God is talked about just to help you to surrender. There is no God. Patanjali says there is no God, but it will be difficult for you to surrender to no one. It will be difficult for you to simply surrender. To help surrender, God is talked about. So God is just a method. This is rare, very scientific. God is just a method to help you surrender. There is no one who is going to take your surrender. If there is someone and you surrender, then it is a slavery, a bondage. This is a very subtle and deep point. There is no God as a person. God is just a way, a method, a technique. So Patanjali relates many techniques. One of them is Ishvara Pranidhan, the idea of God. There are many methods to reach the surrender. One method is the idea of God. That will help your mind to surrender. Because if I say surrender, you will ask to whom? If I say simply surrender, it will be difficult for you to conceive. Try to understand in a different way. If I say to you simply love, you will ask to whom? What do you mean by simply love? If there is no one to be loved, how to love? If I say pray, then you will ask to whom? Worship to whom? Your mind cannot conceive non-duality. It will raise a question to whom? So Patanjali says just to help your mind, so that the mind's question is satisfied. God is just a way, a technique. Worship, love, surrender. To whom? Patanjali says to God. Because if you surrender, then you will come to know that there is no God. Are you yourself? Are that to which you have surrendered? But this will happen when you have surrendered. So God is just a trick. It is said that even to surrender to a God which is nowhere seen, invisible, is difficult. So scripture says surrender to the Guru, to the Master. Master is visible and a person. So the question becomes relevant. If you surrender to a master, then it is a slavery. Because a person is there and you are surrendering to him. But then too you will have to understand, again, a very subtle point, even more subtle than the notion of God. A master is master only when he is not. If he is, then he is not a master. A master becomes a master only when he is not. He has achieved non-being. There is no one. If someone is sitting here in this chair, then there is no master. Then it is going to become a slavery. But if there is no one sitting in this chair, a non-being, one who is not centered anywhere, one who has surrendered, not to anyone, simply surrendered, and achieved non-being, has become a non-person, who is simply there, not concentrated in an ego, diffused, not concentrated anywhere. Then he can become a master. So when you surrender to a master, again you are surrendering to nobody. So this is the deep question for you. When you are surrendering, if you can understand that this is simply surrendering, not a surrender. Surrendering, not a surrender. A surrender is to someone. A surrendering is something on your part. So the basic thing is surrendering, the act, not the object. The object should not be important. But the one who is surrendering is important. The object is just an excuse. Just an excuse. If you can understand, then there is no need to surrender to anyone. You can simply surrender. Then there is no need to love someone. You can simply love. You are significant, not the object. If the object is significant, you will create a bondage out of it. So even a God who is not will become a bondage. Even a master who is not will become a bondage. But that bondage is created by you. It is a misunderstanding. Otherwise, surrendering is freedom. They are not contradictory. Second question, while this is this also includes this is that, and that is Brahma, how is it that the sutra emphasizes only this is this? For a very particular reason. Because Tantra, deep down, is interested only in the here and now. This is this means that which is here and now. That goes a little further away. Secondly, for Tantra, there is no division between this and that. Tantra is non-dualistic. This is the world and that is Brahma. That is Brahma. This is the mundane, the material, and that is consciousness, the spiritual. For Tantra, there is no distinction like this. This is all. That is included in it. This very world is divine. And Tantra makes no distinction. And no categorization of higher and lower. This means the lower, and that means the higher. This means that you can see and touch and know, and that means the invisible, that you cannot see and cannot touch. Only you can infer. For Tantra, there is no distinction of higher and lower, of visible and invisible, of matter and mind, of life and death, of world and Brahma. No distinction. Tantra says this is this, and that is included in it. But the emphasis on this is beautiful. It says here and now, whatsoever is. This is all. And everything is in it. Nothing is excluded. The near, the intimate, the ordinary is all. It is a very well-known saying of Zen mysticism that if you can become just ordinary, you have become extraordinary. The only person is extraordinary who is at ease with his ordinariness. Because everyone hankers to be extraordinary. So the desire to be extraordinary is very ordinary. Everyone. You cannot find a person who is not trying to be extraordinary in some way. So the desire, the lust to be extraordinary is the basic part of the ordinary mind. Zen masters say, so, to be ordinary is the most extraordinary thing in the world. To be just ordinary. Rare. Very rarely it happens that someone is simply ordinary. One Japanese emperor was in search of a master. So he went from one teacher to another. But no one could satisfy him. Because one old man has said that the real master will be most ordinary. So he went on searching, but he couldn't find an ordinary man. So he came back to the old man, he was just on his dying bed, and he said, you have put me in a great trouble. The way you have defined the master, that he will be simple, ordinary, it has become a problem for me. I have been searching all over the country, and no one satisfies me. So give me some clue, how to find the master. The dying man said, you have been searching in wrong places. You have been searching in wrong places, you have been going to persons who are in some way extraordinary, and then you try to find out the ordinary. Move in the ordinary world. And really, you are still trying to search the extraordinary. Now you define him as ordinary, but you are still searching the extraordinary. No, the definition has changed. Now you define him as the most ordinary, but the rare, the exceptional. You are still in the search. Don't do that. And the moment you are ready and not searching in this way, the master will come to you. And next day in the morning, while he was sitting, and he tried to understand what the old man has said, and he felt he was right, the desire left him. A beggar appeared, and he was the master. And that beggar, he knew him for his whole life. He was always coming. That beggar was coming daily to the palace. So that emperor asked that beggar how it happened that I couldn't recognize you before. The beggar said, because you were searching for the extraordinary. I was here, but you were searching there. You missed me continuously. Tantra says this, not that. Particularly in this technique. There are techniques in which that is discussed. But this is most tantric. This, here and now. The most intimate. Your wife, your husband, this, your friend, the beggar. Maybe the master. But you are not looking at this. You are looking that, there, somewhere in the clouds. You cannot even conceive that near you can be that quality of being. You cannot conceive. Because you think you already know the near. So you search it far. You already feel that you know this. So now the only thing to be searched is that. This is not true. You don't know this. You don't know the near. The near is as unknown as the far away. Have a look around you. You are not acquainted with anybody. You are not in any knowledge of anybody. Do you know the tree you pass every day? Do you know your friend you have lived your whole life? Or do you know yourself? Who is the nearest? Do you know your body, the breath that comes and goes continuously? Do you know it? Nothing is known. Even this is not known. So why hanker after that? This technique says if this is known, that will be known automatically because that is implied in this. The far away is hidden in the near, in the intimate. But human mind hankers for the far away. This is an escape. This is an escape to think of the far away. Because then you can go on thinking forever. And you can go on postponing the living. Because life is this. If you think about it and if you contemplate about it, you will have to change yourself. I'm reminded of one anecdote. Once it happened, a Zen master was appointed as a preacher in a temple. No one knew that he is a Zen master. The congregation gathered and the first sermon was delivered. Everyone was thrilled. It was just beautiful. No one has heard such a thing before. Next day, even a greater crowd came to the temple. But the master repeated the same sermon. So they got bored. What type of man is he? Then third day, they came again, not in so great a number, but the master repeated the same sermon again. So many left just in the middle. Only very few were left. And those few were there only to ask, have you got only one sermon? And are you going to deliver it every day? So one spokesman blurted out, asked the priest that what type of preaching is this? Thrice we have heard you, and you go on repeating exactly the same thing, in exactly the same words. Don't you have any other lectures, any other sermons? The priest said, I have, quite a few. But you have not done anything about the first one. Unless you do something about the first one, I'm not going to deliver the second. It is unnecessary. The crowd stopped to come. No one will come near the temple, because the moment anyone will come, the Zen priest will start the first sermon. It is said that people start passing that way, the temple. That priest is there, and if you happen to be there, he will give you the same sermon again. He must have been a very deep knower of human mind. Human mind wants to think, but never wants to do anything. Action is dangerous. Thinking is good, because you go on being the same. If you think about the far away, the distant, there is no need to change yourself. The Brahma, the Absolute, cannot change you. But the neighbor, the friend, the wife, the husband, if you look at them, you will have to change yourself. And it is a trick not to look at them. So you look at the that, to forget the this. And this is the life. And that is simply a dream. So you can think about God, because that thinking is important. It is not going to do anything. You will continue thinking about God and you will remain the same. This is a trick to remain the same. If you think about your wife, if you think about your child, if you penetrate deep in the intimate near, you cannot remain the same. The action will come out of it. So Tantra says, don't go far away. He is here, this very moment, just near you. Be open and look at the this, and the that will take care of itself. Third question. You have said that Tantra teaches man to transcend both his craving for his animalistic past and also his craving for the divine. Does it mean that divinity is part of the world and that too has to be transcended? And what is it that goes beyond both? You will have to understand many things. First, the nature of desire. Divinity is not what you call it. The God that you talk about is not the God of reality. It is the God of your desire. So it is not a question whether the divine is part of the world. It is not the question. The real question is, can you desire the divine without making him part of the world? Look at it in this way. It has been said again and again that unless you leave desiring, you cannot attain to him, the ultimate. You cannot attain to the divine, if you don't leave desiring. Leave desiring and you can attain to him. You have heard it many times, but I wonder whether you understand it or not. More or less, you will be misunderstanding it. Hearing this, you start desiring the divine. And that is to miss the whole point. If you leave desiring, the divine will happen to you. And then you start desiring the divine. So your divine will be part of the world. That which can be desired is the world. This is how I define. That which can be desired is the world. So the divine cannot be desired, and if you desire it, it has become part of the world. When desiring stops, the divine happens. When you are not desiring anything, the divine is there. Then the whole world is, you will not find the divine somewhere in contradiction, contrary, in opposition to the world. When you are not desiring, everything is divine. When you are desiring, everything is the world. Your desiring creates the world. Whatsoever you desire becomes the world. This is not the world that you see, the trees and the sky and the sea and the rivers and the earth and the stars. This is not the world. That which you desire is the world. A flower is there in the garden. The moment you pass that tree and you look at the flower, and the smell of the flower comes to you, look within. If you are not desiring that flower, not even a slight urge to purchase it, not even a slight ripple of desire to have it, that flower becomes divine. You will have the divine face through it. But if the desire is there to purchase it, or a jealousy arises about the owner of the tree, you have created a world. The divine has disappeared. It is your desire that changes the quality of existence. Your desire makes it the world. When you are non-desiring, the whole world becomes divine. Now I will read this question again. You have said that Tantra teaches man to transcend both his craving for his animalistic past and also his craving for the divine. Tantra teaches only to transcend craving. It is irrelevant what you crave. You crave is the point. You can go on changing the objects. You crave money. You crave power. You crave prestige. You crave for the world. Then you change. You get fed up with it. You are bored. Or you have attained whatsoever you craved. And now you are not fulfilled. You feel frustrated. You start a new craving. Now you crave the divine. You crave moksha, nirvana, liberation. Now you crave for the God. The object has changed. You have not changed. Your craving remains the same. It was running after prestige and power and money. Now it is running after divine power. It is running after the ultimate moksha, the absolute freedom. But the craving is there. Ordinarily, religious people go on changing their objects of desire. Desire remains the same, unchanged. And it is not the objects which create the problem. It is the desire, the craving which creates the problem. Tantra says it is futile to go on changing objects, wasting time and life and energy. Objects won't help. Drop craving. Don't crave. Don't crave for freedom, because craving is bondage. Don't crave for divine, because craving is the world. Don't crave for the inner, because craving is the outer. So it is not a question to transcend this craving or that. Simply dropping craving. Don't crave. Don't desire. Just be yourself. When you don't desire, what happens? When you don't crave, what happens? You are non-moving. All movement ceases. You are not in a hurry to reach anywhere. You are not serious. There is no hope and there is no frustration. You don't expect anything. Nothing can frustrate you. There is no desire. You cannot be a failure. Of course, there is not going to be any success either. When you are not craving, not desiring, what happens? You are simply left alone, moving nowhere. There is no goal, because craving creates the goal. There is no future, because craving creates the future. There is no time, because craving needs time to move. Time drops, future drops. And when there is no craving, mind drops, because mind is nothing but craving. And because of that craving, you have to plan and think and dream and project. When there is no craving, everything drops. You are simple in your purity. You exist without moving anywhere. Inside, all ripples disappear. The ocean remains, but the waves are not there. This is what divineness is for Tantra. So look at it in this way. Craving is the barrier. Don't think of the object. Otherwise, you will be deceived by yourself. You will change one object by another, and then time will be wasted. Again you will get frustrated, then you will again change the object. You can go on changing objects infinitely unless you realize that it is not the object which creates the problem, it is your craving. But craving is subtle and object is gross. The object can be seen and craving can be seen only when you go deep down and meditate upon it. Otherwise craving is not seen. You can marry a woman or a man with great dreams and hope. And greater the dreams, greater the hope, greater will be the frustration. Ordinary arranged marriage cannot be such a failure as love marriage is bound to be. Because with ordinary arranged marriage, there is not much hope. There is not much dreaming. It is business-like. There is no romance, no poetry. There is no peak to it. You are traveling on a plain ground. So arranged marriages never fail. They cannot fail. Because there is no point. How you can fail in an arranged marriage? You were never on a height, so you cannot fall. Love marriages fail. Only love marriages can fail. Because with a great poetry, with a great dreaming force, they come up. They touch heights. On the waves you rise high. And then you will have to fall down. So old countries, those who have knowledge, experience, they have come to agree for arranged marriages. They don't talk about love marriages. India, they never talk about love marriages here. They have also tried in the past. And then they felt that love marriage is going to be a failure. Because you expect too much, you will be frustrated. And the proportion of frustration will be the same. Whatsoever you desire and dream gives you expectations. They cannot be fulfilled. So you marry one woman. If it is a love marriage, you expect much. Then you get frustrated. The moment you get frustrated, immediately you start thinking about another woman. So if you say to your wife that I am not interested in any other woman, and she feels you have become indifferent to her, you cannot convince her. It is impossible. It is unnatural. The moment you become indifferent to your wife, the wife knows instinctively you have become interested in someone else. This is how mind functions. You become aware of the woman that you have married, and you feel the frustration is coming because of her. This was not a right choice. This is ordinary logic. This was not a right choice. This woman is not for me. I have chosen a wrong partner. So the conflict has arisen.